Mark Spears wrote a column for theundefeated.com that addresses the lack of black leadership in the NBA. According to a study in the column, Spears reports that almost 75% of NBA players in 2015 were black. But Spears points out that the NBA has only one African-American president, two African-American GMs, and one Native African GM. So one anonymous NBA assistant GM had this to say about the issue. If 75% of the NHL's general managers were black, I'm sure it'd be a big issue. Interesting point there, Stephen A. What's your reaction?
Well, my reaction is that it's about time. I'm proud of my man Mark Spears, writing for The Undefeated, coming over from Yahoo Sports. He's been a friend of mine for many, many years. I love him like a brother. He does an outstanding job, and this is just the latest example of the great work that he does. There are plenty of guys in this industry that I'm very good friends with that have brought it to the attention as well, to the attention of the public as well, and I applaud them and I encourage them to keep on doing it. We all know that I've been bringing this up, Skip, for quite some time. Some have accused me of instigating this matter. Some have even warned me that if I keep it up at this rate, I may be the most hated guy in the NBA. And what I would say to you is that the day that I'm awarded the most hated guy in the NBA for this issue, I would ask that we throw a party for me, because I will be a very, very happy man to be the most hated guy in the NBA if this is the reason why. I'm sick of this. This is a disgrace. It is very, very uncomfortable. It is something that I have been speaking about for quite some time. It is something that has been going on for quite some time. And considering the history that the NBA has, where Richard Lapchick has consistently voted, the NBA in terms of diversity issues with A's and A pluses, the fact that the NBA has allowed this situation to regress to this stature is incredibly alarming to me. And I think it's something that definitely warrants the attention of Commissioner Adam Silver, Deputy Mark Tatum, and a host of others in the NBA league office, because what you're seeing here is a flagrant level of nepotism that needs to be addressed. Sean Marks is from that family tree of the San Antonio Spurs, and I'm certainly not casting any aspersions on them. They take care of their own, and I understand that. Greg Popovich is a wonderful, wonderful man. Regardless of how acerbic he comes off during television interviews, he is a great man and a great coach. And I'm a fan of R.C. Buford. We all know this. But the flip side is that when you get a guy like a Sean Marks, the Brooklyn Nets didn't even interview a minority candidate before they hired him as their GM. And usually these guys, whether it's the analytics dudes getting jobs or whether it's people from the family tree of the San Antonio Spurs or somebody else, let's just call it what it is. The brothers aren't usually getting hired. And that's really what this comes down to. And we're not just talking about coaches. We're talking about front office executives. I mean, I'm looking at it from the standpoint that I know you've got Dell Demps in New Orleans. I know you've got Doc Rivers with the Los Angeles Clippers. They want to put Steve Mills up in there. But even though you're a GM, what's really your job when Phil Jackson is calling all the shots? I mean, I think Steve Mills is qualified to do a lot of things, but we don't know what the hell he's doing because all we're told about is Phil Jackson. As a result, your name is not getting out there. You're not allowed to market yourself. You're not allowed to position yourself to get a great job. I talked to you about Troy Weaver, the assistant GM with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Sam Presti didn't build this roster by himself. That man has helped. Scott Perry has been around for a long time. He's nobody's GM, and he worked years under Joe Dumars. Speaking of Joe Dumars, who is this guy exactly? He's a guy that presided over the Detroit Pistons, guided this franchise to 6 consecutive Eastern Conference Finals appearances, 2 consecutive appearances in the NBA Finals, and a championship. And the second championship that they lost was in Game 7 to the San Antonio Spurs because my man Rasheed Wallace forgot to defend Robert Horry on the wing and left him alone. That was about it. But Joe Dumars can't even get a phone call. This is some disgraceful nonsense. And whether it's the analytics with the numbers, whether it's nepotism or whatever the case may be, black men who aspire to be general managers, president of basketball operations, has been unceremoniously weeded out. And somebody needs to say something about it, and somebody needs to do something about it. And I'm not going to just point the finger at the NBA. I am also looking at the Players Association. Because last time I checked, You have black men and a black woman in the wonderful Michelle Roberts running the show. I haven't heard from them on this matter. I'm not saying they don't care. I'm not saying they're not doing anything behind the scenes, but sometimes a position needs to be public and publicized to bring attention to the flagrant disparity that has taken place. Mark Spears has done it. Other reporters have done it. I've done it for months. And let me warn the NBA, I will not stop. This is ridiculous because I'm seeing, like when I see a Dave Yeager leave Memphis, first of all, he got the job that Lionel Hollins should have never lost. He got it by swearing that he was going to do something totally different. Got the job within 2 weeks, was doing the same thing that Lionel Hollins did, never won more than Lionel Hollins, is allowed to interview for the Minnesota job while the coach of Memphis, and then ultimately leaves Memphis, and a week later, he's the new head coach for the Sacramento Kings. But Mike Woodson guides the New York Knicks to a 54-win season. He gets fired. Phil Jackson comes in. They lose 20 more games than they lost the previous year before making amends by winning 15 more the following year. So you're still -5, but Phil Jackson tries to act like it's a plus in that column. This is some ridiculous nonsense that has been taking place. And whether it's popularity, analytics, or nepotism, whatever the case may be, black men are being weeded out of primary opportunities to be executives and coaches in the NBA, and somebody needs to say something about it.
By the way, one quick point on Memphis. At least Memphis hired a black coach to replace Dave Yeager. So that was.
I appreciate that.
I agree. But just
I'm just
point of
talking
order.
about Dave Fizdale. Dave Fizdale deserved it, but I was talking
Okay.
about Yeager going to Sacramento.
I'm with you.
Yes.
Okay, I'm concerned about one thing you said, and I want to delve a little deeper into it. This whole idea that Stephen A. Smith could become the most hated man in the NBA. Explain a little more to me. Am I to infer from that remark that there are white men in NBA power positions who do not like the fact that Stephen A. Smith is campaigning for change in this regard? Is that
Yes.
Okay? Does it have?
I'm not saying it's anybody from the league office or anything like that, but there are white executives who have a problem with the noise that I've been making. They don't realize that I'm connected. I'm very, very connected in NBA circles, and I always hear the noise. They don't know
and
this,
I appreciate
but they
that.
know now.
Okay, did you also suggest that some in power in black positions in the Players Association are also uncomfortable with you campaigning for this?
No, I'm not suggesting that at all.
I want to make sure.
What I'm saying is they need to speak up about this.
Okay, I got it.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so I also want to applaud Mark Spears for writing this. Again, you have campaigned on this show for months or years on this issue. But for Mark to step up and bring it all together, it was powerful. Well done. I also appreciate what we talked about whenever it was a week or so ago, Michael Wilbon's piece on analytics, because that was the point there was that so many black coaches appear to be being shut out of jobs because the white executives or white owners who now base their team building on analytics more and more don't want the black coach who does not embrace the analytics. That's the basic premise of that piece. Okay, so that led us on air to the point I said, hey, it's almost like you need a Rooney rule to hire more black executives in the NBA, and you took it one step higher and you said, what about black owners? There's Michael Jordan and that's it, right? Okay? Yeah. So my point is you got to start from the top here because this is glaring. This is becoming an increasing problem for a league that's, 74.4% black players. They're not represented by black executives nearly enough. And if we can go one stage higher, they're not represented almost at all, except for Michael Jordan, by black owners. It starts at the top. White owners are increasingly hiring or steadily hiring white executives, and that leads to not enough black coaches and obviously not enough black executives. But it starts from the top, right? It starts at the ownership level. So
well, It definitely does, Skip. That's inescapable. And the reason, and listen, it goes a step further, Skip. I mean, listen, you got to understand, I've got a lot of good relationships in the NBA, and there's a lot of white executives I have profound respect for who deserve their jobs. I'm not talking about any individuals, but there are examples that come shining through that really accentuate the problem more profoundly. Like, for example, I look at the Philadelphia 76ers. How the hell can you not respect Jerry Colangelo? He's the great Jerry Colangelo.
Sure.
And of course, Brian Colangelo deserves to be an executive in the NBA. I totally understand that. The problem with that is that the father gets to facilitate hiring the son. Now, they're both deserving of the positions that they're in. The problem with it is, what black man do you know can get that position in the NBA, where you're in a position to get your son hired? Those are the kind of things that we're talking about when we're talking about flagrant disparities and a level of unfairness. The NBA has become a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. That's who they are. Well, it's the players will tell you when collective bargaining negotiations come up, it's on the backs of the players. Now, certainly that's not totally true, because the executives, the owners, people in administrative positions and what have you, they all contribute to the success of the NBA.
Yep.
The problem is all other folks seem to have a means upon which to show that they're reaping the benefits from it. The players might be reaping benefits from it, but black individuals aspiring for different positions, ownership, presidents, GMs, that's not the case.
Nope.
And the fact that that goes ignored is incredibly alarming to me, because there are things that are happening for other people that are not happening for black folks. And it's a shame that in a league that's nearly 75% black, that is being ignored. It cannot be ignored.
Yep. And I'm not sure how much Commissioner Silver can do to legislate this, to help force the change.
Hey, Skip, in corporate America, what if ESPN sat up there? We got black executives all over the place at ESPN.
Yep.
Black producers, black executives. I mean, you have several companies where it's mandated, mandated that diversity is an important point. I am proud that we work for a company where we have a great leader like Bob Iger who emphasizes the importance of diversity. We can put our record up against anybody.
Okay.
But most corporations are paying attention to that.
No,
How come the NBA needs to?
No, I got it. But that's the difference here. This is one company versus the effectively, how many is it? 30 companies in the NBA.
Well, those 30 companies answer to the one.
They do. They're all under the same umbrella.
So it's all one.
No,
it's all one. It's all under that umbrella. Yes, it can be enforced to some degree. Yes, it can.
I hate to cut you guys off because this is such a great conversation. Thank you for your insight and your honesty here. This next topic, really interesting as well. We know LeBron James is polarizing, but is he the player fans love to hate the most? That's the question. We'll discuss it and debate it next.